Google's Pixel 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL, which is the version that I have here, finally feel like incredible premium flagships. The software to me were always top tier, but the hardware it was fine. But this new design, I don't know what it is, but something about it just feels premium. Oh yeah, maybe it's because it looks pretty close to an iPhone, and this design is something that I really enjoy. Now, before anyone starts getting mad, these companies borrow ideas and design inspiration all of the time, and I'm not saying that they look identical or anything, but Google basically squared off its phone and flattened the display, which are two design elements that I really like, and two design elements that happen to be the staple of the iPhone for the last few years. Now, the camera visor on the back, that is pretty wild and unique, and it's actually kind of jarring at first, but honestly, after a while, I kind of like the symmetry going across the back here, as opposed to the camera island that you kind of get in the top left corner on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now, I haven't looked at the actual specs of, the millimeter of thickness or whatever, but the Pixel seems a little bit chunkier and heavier in the hand, and just by looking at it, you can kind of see that. I kind of wish they went full iPhone and borrowed the titanium frame, because this stainless steel is not my favorite, and I didn't even like it when Apple had it. It scratched and smudged too easily. I really like the transition over to the titanium, and maybe this will be something that Google does next year. Yeah, overall, these phones just look and feel super premium. And I know that seems a little trivial and it's all subjective, but I think it's a little important when you're dropping close to, if not more than $1,000 on a smartphone these days. You just want it to look and feel nice. Now, in terms of colors, I went with this hazel option here. It's just gray. It looks like the natural titanium on the iPhone to me. They look almost nearly identical, and I really like that color option. But there's also black, porcelain, and a pink color option as well. Now, I'm not going to do a full one-to-one comparison between this and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, though I will be referencing those two phones a lot. But I won't be going through everything. We'll save that for maybe the 16 Pro or Pro Max that should be right around the corner here. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the cameras, which should mostly be the same as last year, considering that the main sensor is still that 50 megapixel camera that takes very good photos. I think a lot of people last year honestly preferred the Pixel's photos over the iPhone 15 Pro Max in our comparison, and I was kind of on the fence leaning iPhone, and this year, honestly, I really don't know. I'm going to wait and reserve camera judgment and opinions for that 9 Pro versus 16 Pro video that will be coming out maybe next month or so. But again, it's 2024. Most of these premium flagships take fantastic photos, as you can see here. The ultra wide did get beefed up to a 48 megapixel sensor, but the images do get binned down to 12, and the telephoto is capable of 5x optical zoom, and it still looks fantastic. And you still get good portrait mode photos, you get raw photos if you want. All in all, I really like them. Honestly, the biggest thing that we're going to talk a lot about this year with a lot of flagship phones is not so much the hardware, but the hardware and the software working together, and more importantly, AI. AI. You're all probably sick of hearing it. I'm sick of talking about it, but again, that's where all of these flagships are headed, and they're all getting beefed up processors to handle these features, and the Pixel is right in line with them. Nothing is different on that aspect. So let's talk about some of the intriguing AI features that Google has to offer this year. And we'll start with the camera specific one, since we were just talking about the photos. And so number one, this Add Me feature is pretty mind-blowing. It's a really cool idea, but kind of seems like a lot of work, where in most cases, you might just be able to ask another person that's randomly nearby to take a photo of everyone involved. Now, I'm not able to showcase, I work alone, so it was really hard for me to showcase this live in action, but I can show you some of the photos and some of the materials that Google has to offer to show you how this works. But it's a great feature when you're in a pinch and need a group photo of everyone. So what you can do is take a picture of your group, and then whoever took the picture can be added in after by someone else. You're directing where to stand, and then you're taking the other picture. And Google will then use AI to fuse these pictures together, making it look like a natural group photo. In theory, it's good in a pinch, but probably not noticeable unless you really start zooming in and pixel peeping, and then you'll start noticing some of the weird areas where the computer generated image is a bit wonky, where it's got to fill in might get a little messed up, but it's still a pretty neat feature overall, and it definitely works really well for the most part, and it's definitely innovative. Now, that's going to be the theme across all of these AI features, is it works well enough, but there are some areas that need improvement. There's a new zoom enhance feature where you can zoom in on a photo and then AI will kind of help the clarity of the image when you crop it. Personally, I think it just over sharpens the photo. You really can't tell a huge difference. In person, it's a little more noticeable, but on camera, you probably won't notice anything crazy. But in the magic editor portion, you can now select different parts of the image. And then instead of like erasing or shifting objects, you now have this reimagine option where you can have a new AI generated part of the image, which is basically fabricating your photo, but it can make for some pretty cool pictures. As you can see, we have this blue sky now making it dark and stormy, or golden sunset. I mean, you have endless possibilities, and it does look pretty good for the most part. Apple did showcase a new editing feature using Apple Intelligence, but there needs to be more of these potentially useful AI features for editing photos and taking better images in general, or correcting photos. I think that's more useful to the general public. There are also some interesting AI features like call notes, which is pretty similar to Apple's version, where it will record your phone call and then transcribe it automatically in a note for you. But it's not in a note for you, like placed in your Notes app. It's kind of in the phone app, and then you can share it to a different app if you need to. And for some reason, there's an entire app dedicated for screenshots, which actually, people were making fun of this a bit, but I kind of like this idea, especially if screenshots can be removed from your main photo library, and it does kind of seem like that's happening, and only be in this app. The app does a good job of offering a search for specific screenshots that might have words or whatever the image that you're looking for might be. And there's also, if you're taking a screenshot of a link, let's say you have a recipe or something, it'll automatically, there's a little Chrome option, you just tap that and it'll take you back to that website, which is really, really handy, especially if there were other things in that website that you want to reference later. Now, I tried taking a screenshot of other things in apps like TikTok, for example, thinking that that would act as like a pseudo bookmark in a specific screenshot app for you. But it doesn't actually do that. It doesn't open within other apps. And it would be really cool if it could work with third-party apps like that. But right now, that linking feature appears to be reserved for just web pages. I understand why Google might think this is a good idea to separate this feature from the Photos app, but I think just maybe making this an entire portion of the app, maybe down at the bottom you have tabs, there's a screenshot tab, and then this app just kind of acts within the Photos app. It might make things a little easier, and you can still keep the clutter of your library, your main library, free from screenshots, but then you have this kind of all-in-one app for convenience. Speaking of separate apps, there's also the new Pixel Studio app, which is basically the same exact concept as what Apple showed off with its Playground app that Apple showcased at WWDC. And that hopefully should be coming later this year. I can't really kind of do a one-to-one comparison yet, but it's a prompt-based app that can let you feed ideas, and it will generate your image based on your prompt. Now, there was a little bit of a scandal when this first initially launched a few days ago or last week, where some users were able to make some pretty obscene and offensive things, like a Nazi version of Elmo, for example. But I tried to replicate this, and this was just shortly after news broke about this. My app appeared to have already been patched, which is pretty crazy fast on Google's part. You can generate some pretty cool looking pictures though in different styles, like this apple with a menacing face, or a kitty with a top hat and monocle. Nightmare fuel stuff if you want to, but it's there if you need it. Last but not least, you have the new Google Gemini built into the phone, and it's basically taking over as your new Google Assistant, but kind of. I mean, it actually appears to be working in tandem with Google Assistant, as you can see by the Gemini and Google Assistant logo that appears from time to time together. Either way, it's smarter and more helpful than ever before, and it's probably one of the better phone assistants out there. It understands context, and you can even get fully conversational with it if you want to, assuming you pay for the premium version of Gemini, which if you buy a new Pixel, you'll actually get 1 year for free. Now, the conversational aspect is definitely impressive, and it can be helpful, but I still find it a little bit weird to have full-blown conversations with my phone like this. I don't know that I'm ever going to use that. Whatever the request, though, Google's new AI assistant should be able to help you out. And once Apple Intelligence and the fully baked version of Siri is out and operational and out of beta, or maybe if it just appears, like it's kind of close to coming out of beta, I'll hopefully have a Battle of the AI Assistants video. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. All in all, there's a lot to like with the new Pixel 9 and 9 Pro lineup. It's got great cameras, fantastic software, along with some nice AI features, all packed into a phone that's finally sporting some really high-end feeling and looking hardware. And I can finally say that this actually does feel like the iPhone for Android users. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think about the new Pixel 9, 9 Pro, or 9 Pro XL? What are your thoughts about the new AI features? What do you want Apple to borrow in the future? Let me know in those comments down below. This has been Now with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.